Know whether the agency is
What happened to you?
What is going on here? I need help. If there was nothing to hide, then why not show the video?
We're being bullied by the water company.
It was such a big moment that it's hard to forget.
Tried to reach out, I got no response.
And I was wondering if you could help me like you've helped so many other people.
We're just like being forgotten.
2021 was the year we were supposed to get back to normal. But nearly 2 years into the pandemic, so much of our life is still anything but. Through it all, we've been listening to your stories, and our commitment to telling them and getting results is stronger than ever. Thanks for joining us. I'm Erica Sargent.
And I'm Brad Edwards. We hear you. You are the reason we do what we do, why what we do matters. So we close out this year with taking the next 30 minutes to reflect on all that good being done in our community, to illustrate why we say we don't cover the news, we uncover it. Together, we're finding solutions.
During the height of the pandemic, the federal government gave out millions of your tax dollars to struggling businesses through the Paycheck Protection Program. But as you'll see in this first story, some people who may or may not be legitimate small business owners got the free funds. Many of them in suburban Markham, where a full investigation is now underway just 24 hours after our Jermont Terry started asking questions.
A quick glance around South Suburban Markham reveals signs of economic growth. The nation's largest Amazon robotic fulfillment facility operates here. It's generating jobs and much needed revenue.
We have some good momentum going because of Amazon is here, but we also focus on our small businesses as well.
Yet here on 159th Street, you can still find this, plenty of vacant storefronts available for small businesses to move in. A prime opportunity, perhaps, for the more than 1,000 small business owners who applied for and received taxpayer-funded loans through the Federal Paycheck Protection Program, or PPP. The goal to help businesses stay afloat during the pandemic. There's just one problem.
These businesses are questionable because we don't know about them.
It's Derek Champion's job to know which businesses are operating in Markham.
Individuals saw an opportunity and they took advantage of it.
It all started when CBS 2 started digging into data from the federal government about PPP loans. Something immediately stood out. If taxpayers pumped nearly $28 million into local business loans, how are there still so many empty storefronts?
We don't understand how could Markham have this many businesses and we're not seeing applications come through.
According to the data, 1,733 loans were paid out to people who say they run businesses in Markham and should have these city stickers confirming that. There's just one problem. City records reveal only 311 businesses are licensed to operate in Markham. That leaves 1,422 that got PPP loans unaccounted for.
If you really had 1,422 legitimate businesses operating within all these zones, you should have way more money coming in.
A lot more money.
The bottom line is what when you see this list?
When I see that list, it's letting me know that something is going on.
We thought the same thing, so we started digging. Our first discovery, the vast majority of people granted PPP loans in the name of small business run these businesses from homes, which makes sense for some.
Sure, if you're a tax consultant, not an issue.
Right.
But what about this?
Hey, how you doing, ma'am? Hey, I'm with Channel 2 News. I'm trying to sign up for the fitness sports complex that's here.
Okay.
Where do I sign up?
I have no idea.
Are you familiar with it?
No, I'm not.
They have this listed as a sports complex. And is this a sports complex?
No, it's just a house.
It's just a house? And there's nothing in the basement or anything of that nature?
There's clearly no fitness center operating in the middle of this residential neighborhood. Yet the man who previously lived here managed to get $20,000 of your tax dollars by simply applying for a PPP loan.
Oh, you didn't get any of the money, right?
No, I haven't seen him. He left here last year. I want to say, yeah.
Okay. So is this coming as a shock to you?
A little bit.
When the person that operates this business received $20,000 from the government and having applied a single dime towards the city of Markham, that is a clear indication of what to you?
fraud. We know for a fact that any kind of sports fitness business is not even allowed on this particular block.
And it doesn't stop there. Do you see a hotel or motel here? Records show the owner of this farmland in Markham received 2 PPP loans for a total just shy of $50,000 to keep a hotel running. That's a lot of green to keep goats fed, considering that's all we spotted here. And then there's this. Let me introduce you to Markham Police Officer Kenneth Muldrow.
Officer Muldrow, how you doing? Jermont Terry with Channel 2 News.
Even though he tried denying he's Officer Muldrow,
I want to ask you.
I'm not Officer Muldrow, though, but
You are.
what you need?
he's the same Kenneth Muldrow who applied for and received $20,000 of taxpayer money to keep his landscaping company going during the pandemic. Look here, 16313 Kedzie is the address listed on the loan application, the same address as the Markham Police Department.
I'm trying to figure out why your lawn care service is not registered as a licensed business with the city of Markham. Can you explain yourself?
I don't have a lawn care service.
Well, you got a PPP loan that was paid out for $20,000 back in March. So if you don't have a lawn care service, who does? And it was registered here to the police department, sir.
That was the end of my conversation with Officer Muldrow. While he didn't want to explain any further with me, he will have to explain to someone.
We're putting them on notice.
The city says if any of these are ghost businesses, it's time to pay up. All told, the business owners listed on these PPP loan applications owe nearly $600,000 in unpaid business license fees, if they are legit.
We want to make sure that we're regulating these businesses and we're aware of these businesses. We owe it to the city of Markham.
That was our Jermont Terry reporting. In total, our story exposed more than 1,400 ghost businesses in the Markham area, including that lawn care service a Markham police officer claimed to own. He's now suspended, and 10 more Markham employees are also under investigation for similar PPP loan fraud.
Sometimes it's the small things that make a big difference in a community, like a playground we showed you, this one back in 2019. Slides there were riddled with bullet holes. But what was once filled with danger is now fixed, thanks to the reporting of our CBS 2 political investigator, Dana Kozlov.
A shiny new school playground is something many take for granted.
Woo, good job.
But not at Penn Grade School in North Lawndale. What did you think about the new playground?
It was fun.
This is a big deal for us. It warms my heart when as soon as they come out the door, they're running towards the playground. We didn't have that. They didn't have anything to run towards.
But it took a fight to get the funding from Chicago Public Schools, which we first reported in December 2019.
We should have some place to feel safe.
That's what local school council member Yolanda Williams said back then. She and other parents continued to push with Principal Cheryl Moore Ali's support, and the lots got the green light in the spring.
When we get something new, it helps the community to know that it ain't the end, that out of some bad thing, something good will happen.
Powerful symbolism in North Lawndale, where there's a lot of poverty and violence.
We have to make our communities what we want them to be. And things are not always bright, but it is up to us to secure the future for our children.
And Dana's reporting got more results for another school community this year, this one in Rogers Park. Crews worked through the heat of the summer to get Sullivan High ready for the new school year. But there was one problem. The second floor gymnasium windows didn't open. Wasn't part of the planned renovations. And that section of the nearly 100-year-old building doesn't have air conditioning. In fact, the overactive boiler makes for stifling conditions in the winter. All of this in a pandemic, no less. Chicago Public Schools told Sullivan High they'd be responsible for the replacement costs, but after our story aired, CPS agreed to cover the bill. So far, 10 of those windows now in and open. The rest are on back order. We'll keep following up until they're all replaced.
From sinkholes to heaps of trash, we've uncovered story after story of 311 complaints marked completed, even though residents say the jobs aren't getting done. CBS 2's Tim McNicholas has been uncovering problems with the city's 311 system for years. And this year, something's finally being done about it.
This is not just a bump in the road. It's 10 months of frustration for neighbors on this Andersonville block.
It's very frustrating.
Robert Garcia even blames it for a hit-and-run crash on an icy night last winter.
I'm guessing they were driving pretty fast, hit the pothole, and then somebody slammed their car into my car.
So you're just seeing your vehicle just hit.
Alderman Andre Vasquez sent us 311 requests painting a confusing picture of the problem. Some of the requests are still open, but some have been marked completed with notes like no construction issue found, or just last month, no potholes found. That's because the resident marked it as a pothole complaint, but in the city's eyes, it's not a pothole.
They close that ticket and say this is a utility cut. We need to have somebody else check this out. But your average neighbor gets none of that information. All they see is a closed ticket and they go, well, what did I put it in for in the first place?
From piles of trash to abandoned cars to other bumpy roads, in the past 2 years, we've found requests all over the city marked completed when the job wasn't actually done.
When you all do reporting to make this the forefront of the conversation, it puts more impetus on us as government to try to solve those problems.
In September of this year, Chicago City Council passed an ordinance to conduct a full review and assessment of 311 operations to date.
A 311 spokesperson says they're already working with Alderman Vasquez on updating the system.
You can follow along with this story as well as all our other reporting on the 311 system on our website, cbschicago.com. On orders from the State Department of Children and Family Services, transportation vendors regularly shackled foster kids in Illinois, kids who had done nothing wrong. Chains on their arms, their legs, sometimes the entire length of their body.
But as of August, that practice is now a crime. It came as a result of the reporting of CBS 2's Chris Ty, who for months uncovered new cases of shackling, even after DCFS promised they'd stop.
Put me in handcuffs. I was wondering why. I asked them, like, why do I gotta get in handcuffs? And they didn't say nothing. They just say they got to do it.
The Illinois Department of Children and Family Services instructed a transport company to shackle foster teen Jawan Cross on his trip from the city to the suburbs. You're locked here, and then there's a chain that goes down to your feet.
Yeah, it was messed up. I mean, you know, it was messed up.
That was October 2019. In the weeks that followed, CBS 2 discovered 28 kids over 3 years shackled by the same vendor on instructions from the state. DCFS promised to stop, suspended workers, changed policies, only for us to discover even longer trips were still going on. Some with metal restraints for almost 400 miles.
I'm not sure that I had heard of this practice or even contemplated it before CBS reported.
In the years since, DCFS says it has stopped.
The legislature is in a position to say no more.
But Illinois Senator Sarah Feigenholtz of Chicago's North Side drafted legislation that prohibits the use of restraints on youth in care, including chemical, manual, and mechanical restraints. It passed the Illinois Senate 49-3.
CBS reported many cases in which it was happening, even when children were not of danger to themselves or others.
That was our Chris Ty. That anti-shackling bill was signed into law this summer by Governor J.B. Pritzker.
Another fix involving DCFS is underway in Springfield, and it all started with an interview request by CBS 2 political investigator Dana Kozloff. A 17-year-old wanted to tell his story about how he was locked up by the state in a psychiatric ward weeks longer than he should have been. But a law banned him from speaking to journalists. His case ultimately ended up in court, and Dana had to fight to interview him.
Last spring, at age 17, this young man suddenly found himself in a psychiatric hospital after struggles at home and life became overwhelming. He went into the custody of the Illinois Department of Children and Family Services. Then he sat in that locked psychiatric hospital for 67 days, more than 2 months, longer than he should have.
I was feeling like really hopeless just because I didn't know when I was gonna leave.
The 17-year-old wanted to share his story with me as long as we shielded his identity. It took weeks and 2 court hearings to allow it after DCFS tried to keep him silent.
Did they give you an explanation as to why you spent 67 extra days in the hospital?
Yeah, they said that they were just looking for placement. We're just being forgotten. We're just being like locked up in these hospitals as if they were shelters or prisons, and they're just forgetting about us.
A DCFS spokesperson says a dramatic drop in residential beds and foster homes since 2012 is part of the problem. This teen says those 67 days only added to his struggles.
It hasn't done me any good. It's actually given me more anxiety when I'm like out in public. It's because you're supposed to be there for treatment, but it's not. It doesn't feel like treatment.
He and Cook County's public guardian say being locked up longer than medically necessary further damages the children DCFS is supposed to help.
I'm just glad I got through it. I'm like proud of myself for getting through it.
Thanks to Dana's efforts, all youth in DCFS custody are now entitled to speak with journalists. That new law passed the Illinois House this August.
Reporting isn't just about speaking truth to power. Sometimes it's simply shining a light on people making a difference. Like this next story about a Southside pastor doing a whole lot of good and using the boxing ring to teach life lessons to young people. Here's CBS 2's Ryan Baker.
The boxing ring. Will you learn to overcome adversity and tough it out? But in this old school gym at the Ring of Hope Community Center, it's about even more.
We're able to teach that boxing is not necessarily a tool of violence, but it's really, they call it a sweet art. It's a science.
It's a sweet science.
It's sweet science.
Yeah,
and
so
they don't
it's
really
not
understand
fighting,
that.
it's boxing.
Exactly.
In Pastor Anthony Wright's boxing program, boys and girls channel their fears, frustrations, and energy.
It helps me relieve stress, basically, and it's actually fun to do.
We try our best to give them coping skills while they're here in terms of anger management, communication skills, conflict resolution skills.
17-year-old Zachary Carter has been boxing since he was 10. He says it teaches him about life.
How to have discipline, how to show respect towards your opponent, also to never quit. When you're in the ring, it's you and your opponent, but it's also you versus yourself every minute of every second.
Zach learned that from his coach, who's also his dad.
We all know, life can knock you down, but you got to get back up. I mean, that's boxing.
And now, Pastor Wright is taking his mission beyond boxing to this building on the far south side.
We've already started taking out some of the molded drywall.
He's transforming it into a mental health wellness center to meet a growing need.
I work with kids who have actually witnessed gun violence, and they tell me things like, I cannot get the images out of my mind. Not to mention the fear they have of just leaving their house, going to school. We're trying to build a facility where they're able to come into contact with licensed clinicians and get some long-term help
without stigma.
But we want to normalize that it's okay to not be okay.
The pastor has many other programs for kids, all aimed at building confidence and life skills, a double Dutch team, media lab, and a community food pantry, to name a few.
When the pandemic struck and unemployment skyrocketed, CBS 2 made a promise to help those struggling to find a job or file for unemployment benefits. But our Working for Chicago reporting went beyond just posting job listings. We exposed systemic failures in the state's unemployment services.
We were the first to tell you about rampant fraud in the extended benefits programs, and we uncovered how the department was contributing to that fraud by mailing people's Social Security information to the wrong claimants.
I was in disbelief.
We first met Joe Erbauer. 11 letters from the state landed in his mailbox, 11 identities breached. After days of navigating clogged phone lines and befuddled call takers, he mailed all 11 back to Springfield.
Are your hands now clean of this matter?
In my eyes, they are.
Those eyes, though, had another surprise.
I opened up my mailbox, brought my mail in, 3 more letters from the state of Illinois.
Add Patricia, Valentin, and Sharon to his list. They bring his tally to 14 and his jaw-dropping abilities to new heights.
I sat there for about 30 seconds in complete silence.
When we first met Joe last Tuesday, the 22nd of December, the state was busy printing this new batch.
I go on TV to, we expose it, and I get letters dated from the same day.
The very next day, based on our report, the state's unemployment office, known as IDES, stopped all mailing of Social Security numbers, meaning this should be the end of it.
I'm skeptical. I'm skeptical.
The state, though, if it wanted, could salvage this skeptic, his IDEA for IDES, a love letter, sealed with a sorry.
I would like, personally, somebody from the state to call me and say, you know, we're going to pick these letters up and we're going to put an end to this. I shouldn't have to mail these back. My main question, why me? Why me?
Now, hopefully, a final fix. After Chris documented dozens of cases in June of this year, Governor Pritzker signed a bill making it illegal to send full Social Security numbers through the mail, a law that will apply to all state agencies, including IDES.
CBS 2's Tara Molina has also been on the Working for Chicago beat since the start of the pandemic. This year alone, she uncovered why Illinois was one of the worst states in the country in reporting unemployment fraud to the federal government. She was also the first to report on problems with the iLogin ID verification system, a supposed solution that ended up keeping legitimate claimants from accessing their money.
An error has occurred.
Said it errored out today again.
Jeffrey Deegan says he's seen this screen dozens of times.
Yeah, they are having problems.
Since first trying to access his online account using the Illinois Department of Employment Security's new iLogin system, now required for those logging in online, it's meant to safeguard accounts.
I think they just got overwhelmed.
Locked out for days, he had to put his number in the state system for a callback for help, ultimately delaying his certification and his unemployment money. He's not the only one.
Can't get into the account. That's the definite end of the day problem, yeah.
A Facebook post on the IDS page about the new system has more than 200 comments, many from people having issues.
Obviously, this is a problem for a lot of other people.
Still, when we first asked the state about system issues with iLogin, we were told they weren't aware of any. But through a public records request, we found since the iLogin system debuted, the backlog in the state's callback system grew, with more phone numbers waiting for return calls for help in early October than we've seen since April, many of them with certification and password issues. I asked about that. The spokesperson for IDES didn't address all of our questions, only saying they'd need more specific information on the issues people are having, like forgotten passwords, in order to address them.
It almost feels like they're not looking into it. I mean, do they have technical people looking at the problem? The complaints are pretty obvious.
Just figure out what's going on with it, I guess.
In October, after IDES launched that new iLogin system, 49,000 people were stuck in the department's callback queue. Last month, after Tara exposed the problem, the backlog dropped to the lowest we've seen all year, just under 8,000 claimants.
Throughout the pandemic, we've been uncovering information to help this community get back to work. In 2021, jobs are coming back, but businesses are having trouble filling them. We hear you, and we'll continue working for Chicago here at CBS 2.
Telling stories you care about and getting results. That's what we do here at CBS 2. But sometimes it's our viewers, you at home, who offer the best solutions.
And that's exactly what happened in this next story. After a 2-year struggle and an investigation into insurance denials, a 5-year-old girl finally got a new wheelchair. It was an anonymous donor, not the insurance company, who stepped up. And it all came together after a report by CBS 2's Tim McNicholas.
Like daughter, like mother. Patricia Roon and her 5-year-old Martina can't contain their excitement. In just minutes, Martina will see her new wheelchair for the first time.
Oh, I'm anxious, and I think she's anxious, and we're both very excited. It's been a long time coming, too long.
It's a moment so big, Martina kept her eyes closed for the reveal, a moment years in the making.
And a 5-year-old girl who struggles to walk.
Blue Cross Blue Shield of Illinois denied her twice, even though a letter from the Shirley Ryan Ability Lab described her various medical conditions. When we first met Martina, she tried to walk home with Mom's help, but then fell climbing back into her wheelchair. That chair was generously loaned to her by a local charity, but as her mom explained, it's too big.
After that story aired, I got an email from someone who asked to stay anonymous.
They said the story brought them to tears, and they wanted to do what Martina's insurer would not: pay for the wheelchair. It was an eye-opening moment that led to this eye-opening moment. Like daughter, like mother, excitement overflowing.
It's very awesome and very exciting, and after trying to get it for a really long time.
And the Runes have a message for that donor.
I hope they can see the emotion on my face and how truly grateful and thankful that I am, and you guys are amazing, and thank you so much. Love it.
Patricia says the chair will help Martina join her friends on the playground, or perhaps the zoo.
Sandy Penguin.
For now, they're off to explore the city, excitement and all.
Because of our report, Blue Cross Blue Shield says it's revising the online medical necessity form to make the claims process easier. It's also launching more provider education on the company's review processes.
We've spent the last 30 minutes showcasing why what we do here at CBS 2 matters, and you are the why. We want you to know we hear you, and we'll never stop pursuing answers and accountability. Thanks for watching us. I'm Erica Sargent.
And I'm Brad Edwards. You can catch the extended versions of all of these stories and more on our website, cbschicago.com. Follow along as our reporters follow up. Just download our free CBS Chicago News app. You can find that wherever you get your apps. For all of us here at CBS 2 News, thank you.